What's going on, guys? I'm KnownPlay. Today, once again, back in another hotel room. I'm actually in Vegas right now on pretty much a mini holiday after E3. But, like I said, there is a lot of pretty interesting Destiny 2 stuff that I want to talk about. On Thursday, I actually went during E3, the last day. I was actually invited to a kind of behind closed doors, hands-on session with Forsaken. But I did get to play some actual stuff besides just Gambit with Forsaken. So I want to talk about that, which is interesting. There's also some more stuff I wanted to talk about to do with Cayde, some general stuff from interviews, some general news come out during E3, secret exotics, all that kind of stuff. So yet again, a bunch of things inside this video. As always, if you enjoy the video and if you appreciate the dedication of making a video inside Vegas, then a like rating down below is much appreciated. And let's get into it. The first thing I did want to talk about is some kind of strange character that Bungie released inside the press pack. Obviously during E3 they released a bunch of images for Forsaken, so you got screenshots, new loot, new characters, but one of them is pretty strange, so I don't think anyone really knows who he is. But as you can see, this is the image, and it appears to be somewhat similar to Prince Uldren, obviously the Queen's brother, but I don't think it's really him. Obviously it does resemble Uldren, it's some kind of evil looking bad awoken guy, but Uldren does have long black hair, this guy's got white hair, Uldren has dark orange eyes, this guy's got white eyes, so they do seem like different people. I'm not sure if it's some kind of like evolved version where he's done some weird stuff with the Nine and some magic maybe. Uldren's obviously known for being like the crow and he has his army of crows, but this guy has a white crow or raven or something like that. So it's kind of like this dude is the opposite of Uldren. Again, comment down below who do you think he is, but right now it seems to be a big mystery. Also, of course, the weapon he's holding is very interesting looking, possibly a new exotic will get to have, because it is kind of his signature weapon. He's got a holster for it, it's very unique, but it's a double-barreled sawn-off shotgun, which would be very cool to have in game, and obviously we have nothing like that, so this could be a weapon we get eventually. Now, I did also want to talk about Cayde 6 and him being pretty much removed from the game, removed from the tower, and some more things Bungie have said about it. Honestly, I'm starting to more and more think he may actually be dead. Obviously, when it first came out, I was kind of skeptical. I thought it was just kind of like a trick that make him die and then bring him back as Cayde 7, or somehow he'd get rebooted and come alive again. But honestly, the more trailers and interviews and quotes and videos they've released, and even myself talking to a bunch of Bungie people at E3, I'm definitely getting the impression he is actually dead and maybe not coming back. I mean, at first they were kind of vague enough to make it possible for him to return, but now they're definitely cementing it to be like, no, he's definitely dead, he's not coming back. So a very interesting interview by PC Gamer with Bungie where they talk about this and a bunch of other things. They said things need to change, things need to evolve. We'll see what happens when we remove the Hunter Vanguard from the tower. What does that do to the emotional state of the game? What do the players' motivations feel like? And Bungie have also mentioned this in other places as well, the idea of Cayde 6 not being in the tower and how that's going to be different. Obviously some characters are going to be added to the tower now, but Cayde will be gone. That also begs the question, who's going to replace him? Is there going to be a new Hunter Vanguard? Obviously the Vanguard members have changed quite a lot, so Cayde 6 replaced Andor Brask, who is another hunter. He got killed by Tanix the Scarred and Cayde 6 replaced him because he was his friend. So you could kind of speculate a list of what other hunters exist in the Destiny universe to replace Cayde 6. One that comes to mind is Anna Bray. She's supposed to be one of the best gunslingers ever, so she could possibly replace him. But there have been a few characters that have changed. So Osiris, of course, used to be the Warlock Vanguard, and he got replaced by Akora when he pretty much went crazy and everyone kicked him out of the tower. Or maybe no one really replaced him for a while. Maybe in Destiny 3 they'll get someone, but for the rest of Destiny 2, the next like 2 years or whatever, there'll just be no Hunter Vanguard. That would be really strange, but again, we'll have to see what happens with it. I mean, the speaker got killed and no one replaced him, so maybe there'll just be an empty gap, who knows. Now, I did also want to talk about this exotic hand cannon, which is actually going to be a secret weapon to obtain in Forsaken. This, of course, is the Thorn lookalike. It's kind of taken energy as well. So this is information I got firsthand from Bungie employees that I spoke to at E3, and they all said that this weapon is tied to Gambit somehow. It's part of the Gambit weapon set, but obviously they didn't tell me how to get it. It's going to be some kind of secret quest maybe it's a very rare drop. I'm not sure, but this is basically the Gambit exotic. We, of course, have legendary weapons that we've seen in these kind of gameplays. It's very likely that the Drifter will be involved somehow with this. He, of course, is the main vendor and NPC of Gambit itself. It's his ship that actually a lot of the maps take place on. It is pretty weird the guy's name is the Drifter. I'm not sure if that ties into, obviously, the Reef map we had in Destiny 1 and Crucible called the Drifter. That may be his ship. I'm not sure if there's a connection there. I'm not sure. It is weird, but all I do know is that intro sequence of Gambit takes place on the Drifter's own ship, so there's probably some kind of connection there. It's all on the Reef. On the topic of random rolls, I did want to talk about how it's going to work with Year 1 and Year 2 weapons. Now, the interesting thing is that Year 1 weapons, like the Better Devils, for example, are still going to drop, but as their own set perks. They're not going to change or be random. So Better Devils will always have explosive rounds. That is the Better Devils. But then you get Year 2 weapons, which are going to have random rolls, and you can get any perk on them. For those wondering, you can actually infuse Year 1 weapons, so you can bring Better Devils devils, and of course all your year 1 gear with you all the way. It's not like Destiny 1 where the stuff was constantly getting left behind. I think it is definitely good to have some weapons that are still fixed rolls, because you kind of know reliably if I get a Midnight Coup or a better Devils, you know exactly what it's going to be. So it's kind of good to have the balance. I definitely do not think all weapons should always be random rolls. I mean, even back in Destiny 1, we did have quite a lot of fixed weapon rolls. It wasn't all just random. There was all 3 factions: Dead Orbit, Future Walkout, New Monarchy. There was Crucible, there was Vanguard, the raid sets, trial sets, so things like that. And honestly, those were a lot of the best weapons in the game. So again, in Destiny 2, it's going to be similar. Some weapons being fixed, some being random. I think the fact that some of those year 1 fixed rolls weapons are going to be dropping is also going to highlight how trash some of them are. So if you get a fixed weapon roll that is bad, no one is ever going to use that weapon. That's something I always think is a good part about random rolls, because you can turn a bad weapon into a good one. Bungie, of course, are still working on the entire random roll system, so it's not going to be finished for quite a while, probably just before Forsaken releases. So we'll have to wait and see about the details of those things. So I did also want to talk about that first mission that I played for Forsaken, which was a little bit rough. It wasn't the final version. Obviously, some bits are different. There are some cutscenes I didn't see, and I'm sure the sequence and order of events is going to be different as well. There aren't really any spoilers I can give other than just the vague outline of what happens in the mission, but there are no like big surprises or crazy plot points that haven't already been released, like Cayde dying. So I'm just going to give a very rough and vague outline of what I played and what I remember and what I experienced in that very first Forsaken mission. Obviously, we weren't allowed to record any gameplay of this, so I don't have footage, but we do have a bunch of images from the press kit that you've probably seen already, so these are for that mission. So as you can see, it does of course take place inside the real Prison of Elders, which is pretty cool to be inside finally. Obviously, we previously had the activity Prison of Elders, but that wasn't actually the Prison of Elders. That was kind of like the arena, Varrix's like playground. That was like the fighting kind of Colosseum area, but there is an actual prison with the cells and where the kind of enemies kept. This is inside that prison, of course, the same place where Axel, the Look cell from Prison of Elders, came from. This is the one you can see similar pods of where he came from as well. It was pretty funny to see a bunch of the enemies were inside little gangs, and they've got gang leaders. They're all like nicknamed differently. There's like Cell Block D and little kind of groups they have inside. So you'd fight all these groups of enemies and their gangs, and then later on, as you progress, you'd face the gang leaders, which were the big ultras, and they were obviously more powerful. Also, of course, these enemies were fighting each other. There was Fallen, Cabal, and also the Hive. No Vex in here. I don't think there was any Taken in there, and obviously there wasn't any Scorn, the new Fallen enemy type. I'm not sure where they come in later down the line. Again, this could have been a very altered version of the mission, so maybe there is in the final version different enemies in there like the Scorn. Also, of course, you do meet Petra Venj, so she is basically asking Cayde to come help her because there's been a prison outbreak and explosion, and then Cayde brings you along, so you're fighting alongside Cayde, and you do meet Petra a few times. But Bungie did put a bunch of lines in there that are very fitting, obviously knowing that he's going to die. I think some of them he was saying how he loves his job, and he was kind of very witty, so it was kind of sad to see him being very comical, but he's going to die later on. There are some very cool fight scenes though. One of them is where he destroys a giant, huge Hive Knight with his golden gun, and then literally stands up, throws a grenade over his shoulder, and then destroys all the other enemies. So like I said, this mission was definitely very different. There were different kind of cuts and edits, kind of similar to the very first time we see the Homecoming mission for Destiny 2's reveal versus the full version, even the beta as well. There are different versions. And because of that, there is definitely a lot of context in the version that I played. We have no idea why Prince Uldren is there, how he got there, why he hates Cayde, how he managed to kind of beat up and defeat Cayde. The end cutscene is similar. It's like an in-game version of the kind of one that we saw, which is very cinematic and kind of like motion captured, I guess. So obviously in the final version of the game, we're going to find out his motivations, why he's there, how he got there, and more importantly, what he has against Cayde and why he's turning evil. Something very interesting that I realized is that Uldren does seem to be the cause and the reason for the prison break and the explosions and basically causing drama inside the Prison of Elders. But then Petra Venj is trying to control the outbreak. She calls us and Cayde there, so Petra is definitely on the different side to Uldren. Uldren is going against his own people, the Awoken. So I'm not sure what Uldren is on. He's definitely being very evil, but I don't think that Petra was working with Uldren and just lured us to the prison to get us killed. I don't think that's what happened. I'm pretty sure Uldren and Petra are on different sides. I mean, the Reef is Uldren's home and his territory, so I'm really not sure why he would pretty much destroy the entire thing by releasing the worst criminals, the Barons, on the Reef. But as always, speculate down below. What do you guys think of this? Why do you think Uldren is doing this, and whose side do you think he's on? Do you think he's just with the Barons, or what do you think the Queen's doing, or what do you think Petra's doing? It's definitely very confusing, but I'm really interested to find out all this stuff, and comment down below what do you think of it. So I did also want to talk more about Gambit, which I've had to play I think 4 or 5 times in total now, so I've got a lot of experience and it is so much fun. It's also just really nice to use the Destiny 1 weapon system, like using a pulse rifle, shotgun, and a rocket launcher. It feels so much more natural in PvE at least. I think I'm definitely going to rock that setup most of the time. I'm not sure about Crucible. I do kind of like having the Destiny 2 weapon system of having 2 primaries, but for PvE, I think 2 primaries just doesn't work for me personally. I'm not really a fan. But the main thing is that the secondary shotgun does still feel very good as an energy weapon. It's actually not just a nerf version. It's still basically a power gun, but you have 2 of them, also a rocket launcher as well. I do still have a bunch more Gambit gameplay that was recorded at E3 from Activision, so I want to try and edit together some of the highlights and best bits to show you guys. So that's going to do it for today's video. As always, if you enjoyed it and want to support this channel, then a like rating down below is massively appreciated. Look out for more videos on this channel as well very soon. When I get back home in London, we'll have a bunch more stuff to look at. In the meantime though, if you want to watch another video from myself, you can click this image on screen right now to be taken to it. But as always, I appreciate you guys for watching and tuning in, and I'll see you all very soon.